Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grains and Grit Live. I think my camera is pretty funky. So let me know if it's blinking constantly because it is on my end, but I do not know if it's affecting you guys. Otherwise, we're going to have to switch to my computer camera, which is terrible, terrible. So just let me know if you cannot see me. Let me know if you can. It is going in and out. Okay, be right back. Let me switch. Okay. Okay, video. My regular camera, I don't think is working either. You've got to be kidding me. Okay, let's try this here. Can you still not see me? Okay, screen's going in and out. Oh, for heaven's sakes. Okay. Oh, here we go. Oh, would help if I enabled my camera. Okay. So sorry about that, y'all. I'm having to switch to my computer camera. It was working fine. And then whenever I'm ready to go live, it is suddenly not working anymore. So forgive the terrible camera, but I think the microphone is still working fine, which I think the audio is probably more important than the camera. All right. So hopefully y'all can see me now, as grainy as I am. But hello, everyone. Hello from, okay, we got Alabama. I think we got Northern Michigan. So those of us in the South, I know we've been dealing with so many gnats here and bugs, and I think we're all just ready for summer to die horribly and miserably, I have to say. Okay. So I'm really excited about going live, and I'm trying to now retrain my eye to look at the right camera. It's been 3 months since I've done a live. For those who don't know, I have moved, hence the different background. And so that's why it took me a while to go live again, because we were getting settled. So today we actually have a lot to cover. We're going to be talking about wheat availability updates. I've gotten some updates from people. Then we're going to be talking about possible food shortages, the recession that we're hearing about, and you may be already feeling, what to do, answer some frequently asked questions I've been receiving, so on and so forth. So do know that the last time I did a live, we had a lot of people on, and it was very difficult for me to keep up with all the questions that were being asked. So if you really, really want a question answered, super chat is the way that I can see it. So if you look down at the bottom of the chat, there's a $sign. You click on that, say super chat, and that will actually feature your question or even your comment. So I will be able to see that. Okay, so first of all, a little bonus for you guys. I'm actually going to be reading to y'all some testimonies that I have received about, milling your own grains, just whole grains, things like that. I was just asked, am I live on Rumble too? No, I'm just live on YouTube. I don't know if I can go live on Rumble as well as YouTube, but I will have to look at that for next time. So we're just on YouTube. Hello from South Alabama. Hey. So neighbor, all my Alabama neighbors. Okay. So some testimonies that I really want to share with y'all, because I get so excited whenever I hear these, and it dawned on me today that I've actually never shared any of these via video. I've said some things in my newsletter. If you're in our membership group, I've definitely said some things on like our private podcast and whatnot, but I've gotten some really amazing testimonies lately. So I just want to read a couple of them for you. So this one was a comment on Rumble last month in August. And they said, I had been gluten-free and eating gross gluten-free breads for many years. After listening to you and researching the things you teach and praying, because let's face it, I was scared to eat wheat and be so sick. Understandable. I decided to eat your freshly milled wheat bread recipe. Best decision I ever made, and best tasting bread I've ever had. Legit cried over it. Praying the blessing over our family meals these days has such a deeper meaning than ever before. Thank you, God, for this nourishing food. I even noticed my skin looks better. It's crazy amazing. I appreciate your voice, your knowledge, and your channel. Please continue sharing everything you can. You're a blessing. So thank you so very much to the person who left that on Rumble. I love that so much, especially because I've heard I get these testimonies of people coming off like a gluten-free diet or a keto diet. And there is this fear of eating bread because I think it's just been beaten into us like since the 90s. Bread is evil, bread will make you fat, like all this stuff. So I totally understand the fear there. And it is a step of faith to trust in God's design, to trust that the food he's given us is best. So that was one that gets excited. And then another one I got literally this morning, and I have to share it with you guys. This is someone who she responded to my newsletter this morning. And she said, as for me and my house, we will grind wheat and consume it any way I can find to put it together. We are the health that wheat and God has given us. This is the best part. I personally take no medications. I'm almost 75 years young. I'm not overweight, all because of God and wheat. So that's controversial right there. In fact, since starting my wheat journey 3 years ago, I've lost 20 pounds, lost the need of daily medication per my doctor's permission even. He was so excited over my numbers and asked what I'd done for this turnaround. I provided him with a loaf of proof. He loved it and called me later and to remember him when I make bread. So that is amazing. That is not the first testimony I received from someone who they switched to freshly milled wheat. They went to their doctors and their numbers had improved, like for cholesterol, blood pressure. But I praise the Lord, and I got so excited when I heard this because it is so rare nowadays for someone in their 60s, 70s, 80s, and above to be on no medication whatsoever. I mean, everyone pretty much is at least on like high blood pressure medicine and cholesterol, and then, the water pill for, all that stuff. So I got so excited hearing that she was able to get off of her medication just by eating bread, something that, the grain deniers swear is going to kill us all. So hope those were an encouragement to you guys. It was just, again, I get so excited. Send me your testimonies. I love to hear them, and maybe you'll be featured in a video or a newsletter or something like that. All right. So that was the exciting news. Now let's get down to the nitty gritty. All right. So let's do some wheat availability updates. So certain things have come my way that I want to let you guys know about in case you do not know. The first one is those of us who shop with Bread Beckers. So Bread Beckers, if you've been around, you've heard me talk about Sue Becker, the queen of grains. And Bread Beckers is available. They're in Georgia. So I think mainly people in the Southeast probably order from them, but they recently told us in their last newsletter that they will no longer have hard white wheat. Their supplier did not have a good year, and if I read it correctly and understood it right, they will have none for all of 2023. So I know hard white wheat, very, very popular. Now, good news, I have noticed other places having the hard white wheat where beforehand they didn't. So Azure Standard seems to have a good amount in stock still. The biggest one that I've never seen run out of hard white wheat, and that's Pleasant Hill Grain. You've heard me talk about them many times on this channel, love them to death. You can shop grainsandgrit.com/PHG for Pleasant Hill Grain. And they always have had hard white wheat that's organic. So they definitely have some. So that's the update with the hard white wheat that I know I get asked a lot of where to buy. Now, do know if you go to my website, grainsandgrit.com, I think it's where to buy grains. I think that's what it is. But if you go to my website, grainsandgrit.com, I have a page for shopping where I keep a list of any coupon codes that I have, the places that I know of to buy grains from. So always check those out if you're looking for specific grains and maybe can't find them where you typically shop. So just know that that's always there. And if I got a coupon code, I've got it listed on there for y'all. So that's the update with the hard white. Yes. Okay. So we listed it in the comments on the link for that. Now, another update that I got is I did reach out to Farm Fresh Wheat. I reached out to Elizabeth. If y'all saw, they were the farmers that I interviewed a few months ago. They are up in Oregon. I think they're up in Washington. I forgot. They provide soft white wheat shipped right to your house. And I reached out to them to see how their harvest went this year, because I know we were all concerned about the wheat harvest. We were thinking, there's going to be shortages, things like that. So here is what she said about this year's wheat harvest. We wrapped up harvest mid-August. It was a below average year. They're in year 2 of a 3-year drought, but it was better than last year, and some fields were better than expected. Our wheat berries are fully in stock now, and I'll be holding extra back this year to sell direct. So they are planning on holding back. So those of us who order from them to have it shipped straight to your house, they're going to be hopefully providing even more for us this year. And they're really great. They were wonderful. I do recommend watching that interview. It's just a cool interview with a wheat farmer to get to get to know one of your wheat farmers. Excuse me. Okay, give me a second. All right. So there's some updates with that. The only place I know, Camus is still super difficult to find. The one place that I know that has had it has been Country Living Foods, which is on my website. I do have them listed. They have Camus if you've been looking for that. I don't think like Azure has it still. I mean, a lot of people just last year, you just couldn't find it at all. It was ridiculous. So there's one of those grains that I get asked about as well. All right. Updates on the wheat done. Now the big one. So let's talk about this whole recession, food shortage, things like that. So I definitely have a few thoughts. So even mainstream media, the mainstream guru people, they're talking recession. And I know many of us, first of all, we've definitely seen prices increase in the grocery store. So we don't have to be told by anyone to know our money is not stretching as far. Then we know that interest rates from the Federal Reserve are going up, which means, just prices are going up. It's just a crazy time that we're in right now, just really weird time economically. And I know that as far when it comes to our food, there can definitely be some insecurities there. So here's what I have to say about this to help you prepare my advice dealing with this. First of all, don't panic. People make foolish decisions when they panic. And just always remember that the Lord has promised to provide for us. If we are walking with the Lord, we are following his ways, that he has promised that he will provide our daily bread. And so always remember that, because I know that there was once a time where I was certainly more fearful, when we were living like in a dinky little apartment in the city. This was years ago, thinking, oh no, I'm thinking the world was about to end, way back then. It didn't. But I remember that fear of just, well, what if I can't go to the store, or, things like that. Which leads to my next one is, remember that probably the most recession-proof food of all, as far as being able to store and be super nutritious, is of course grains. I'm sure you guessed it. Grains. stock up on grains, even if times are great. You know, we're doing great, whatever it is. I still recommend that people keep a good stock of food because you just never know. We have little disasters throughout our life that come unexpectedly. You lose a job. In Florida, a hurricane pops up, or you may live in Tornado Alley, or, all of these things, snowstorms for those who live up north who deal with that. We always have these little disasters, and you never know when you may not be able to go to the store. So I always recommend stocking up on grains because at the very least, they're going to be fine. You know, just you can just use them. They're not going to go bad like, fresh produce or milk or things like that. So that leads to kind of part B of number 2 is get you a grain mill. If you don't already have one, you need to get you a grain mill so you can really utilize these grains to their full potential. Now, I do have a video coming up next week all about what to do if you do not have a grain mill and some of my tips to be able to get you one, to afford one if you do not have one already. So be on the lookout for that next week. Because I have been surprised at how many people follow me that don't actually have a grain mill, but I highly recommend you find a way to get you a grain mill. It doesn't have to be the best one, the most expensive one. I mean, they range anywhere from $280 all the way up to $700. You don't need the $700 one. So, but just remember that for thousands of years, a grain mill was seen as an absolute necessity. Small villages would pool their resources together to have a local grain mill, to supply them with freshly milled grains because it's the staff of life. Bread is the staff of life. And we've known that for thousands of years. I mean, we're talking like, oh, you're going to get married, grain mill house. Nowadays that's not even part of the equations. We think of towels and cookware and things like that. So just remember that this used to be a staple. The Bible even talks about not taking someone's millstone as a pledge because you will be taking his life if you take the millstone. It was people's life. So see, this is very serious to get a grain mill. And I do have a video all about helping you choose a grain mill, the different options that are out there. I also have 2 videos reviewing 2 different manual grain mills for those who are interested in those. One is a cheaper version and one is the Wonder Junior Deluxe, which is the more expensive one as well. So the cheaper one is the Roots and Branches Deluxe one, and I do have those. Okay, Kara said, I travel in an RV with my family full-time across the U.S., and I take my grain mill and my grain everywhere with me. We love it. # grains in small places. I love that. I'm stealing that hashtag. I don't have a small place right now, but I love that so much. So good for you, Kara, for making it a priority to feed your family grains. So that is the second thing, part A and B. With dealing with recession or hard times, food shortages, skyrocketing prices, things like that. The third thing that I just really want to emphasize is learn now. Learn these skills now. Do not just buy wheat berries, store them away in a bucket somewhere, and don't ever touch them and don't know what to do with them, how to cook them, how you like to eat them. Do you even like them? I mean, you're going to like them, but as far as what if you bought a bunch of quinoa and most of my family does not like quinoa. Good thing I don't really stock up on it or we would be in slight trouble. So you need to learn these skills now. And bonus points, if you really want to go extra, if you want to prepare for power outages or things like that, learn to cook over a fire or in a grill, not a propane one, like over either charcoal or even wood. So learn these skills now. Also, I recommend getting good at other skills like your knife skills. If you're used to blenders and food processors and things like that, well, what if you don't have electricity? Do you know how to chop up an onion manually? So it's all these little things. So don't wait. Don't just buy the grains because I or Sue Becker or other people say, hey, it's like an ultimate storage food. No, learn it now. Learn what to do with it now, because you do not want to be in a situation where that's all you have and it's now very stressful and you're hungry and you don't know what to do. So so just keep that in mind, learn it now, which leads me to the last thing, number 4. Recession or not, good times, bad times, you should be consuming healthy whole grains every single day. People have asked me before, how often should we eat this bread, when we mill our own wheat and bake bread. And I totally agree with Sue Becker on this. Every meal, every day, every meal. It should be a priority to consume this because, again, remember, wheat, especially wheat, is king. When you mill it yourself, it contains all the nutrients pretty much needed to help you survive. It contains the fiber needed to keep you regular, which is very important. It also fills you up more and keeps you full kind of longer than, say, vegetables. And I'm not knocking vegetables at all. That's great. But I do know, like, when I feed my family, a salad, like, so raw food, it's delicious. And if I didn't feed them bread with it, they'd be hungry in 30 minutes. So it helps stretch things better. And you should be doing it now. I know I recently heard Sue Becker, and I cannot remember if it was her podcast or somewhere else where she was being interviewed. And she mentioned that they had a huge increase of sales in wheat right before Y2K. I'm sure you can all know why. And then she was told, so Y2K happened. It was not a big deal like we thought it was going to be. And then she was told by certain people, oh, well, I just threw out the grains. And I gasped in horror whenever I was just listening to this, that people would actually throw out good wheat berries. Nothing was wrong with them, but why weren't you already consuming it? One. And two, heaven's sakes, keep it. I mean, another Y2K might happen or something. I mean, keep the grains. Do not throw out your grains as long as that they're good. If they're bad, throw them to the chickens or something. But these store for just a long period of time. So again, recession or not, good times or bad, you need to be consuming this now. It helps you now. So hopefully that was helpful to you guys. All right, so now we're going to be getting into some frequently asked questions. I already have a few here that I've been receiving more lately. If you have any, list them below and I will try to catch them so long as the chat doesn't go flying. Okay, so one thing is a couple of things that I want to talk about as far as grain storage, storing your grains. Now, I have a couple of videos about storing wheat berries and your grains. Overall, it is simple. I know I talk about freezing my corn or my rice. I have the ability to do that. I know many people don't. And one thing I did not mention in my video, at least one of them, was you can just use oxygen absorbers and it does the same thing. It's still going to kill any bugs. So just know that when you hear people talk about freezing, just also know oxygen absorbers are just fine as well. And do know that I do recommend Wallaby Goods for any Mylar bags and oxygen absorbers that you may want. And I do have a coupon code for y'all. Again, that's on that grainsandgrit.com/where-to-buy-grains. That's where the coupon code is for that. But they have excellent oxygen absorbers and Mylar bags. Now, I do not think you ever need to put grains in Mylar bags. Mylar bags are needed to keep things fresh. So for things that are not going to maintain their freshness, that's what Mylar bags are for. So things like coffee beans, they eventually lose it. I have been told though, for dried beans that storing them over time, their color may lessen, but they're still good, as opposed to if you put them in a Mylar bag, they remain there. They will retain their color. So that's the question with that. So again, I never store my grains in Mylar bags, but I am starting to see the advantages of oxygen absorbers, especially because I did recently see Sue Becker talk about that if you buy their grains in bags, they have not been treated with I think they use like their CO2 with their buckets to kill any bugs. It's not done with bags. So I've never had a problem with grains that I purchased in bags. I've never had a problem with bugs with my wheat berries, whether it's in a bag or a bucket. But if you are concerned about that, I would just slip in an oxygen absorber. And that's it. Just peace of mind. Easy. Just for those of you who may have had issues with bugs, it does depend on where you buy them. Again, I've never had any issues with bugs, but be that as it may, if you want to feel a bit safer, an oxygen absorber, I think is just the quickest and easiest way to go. Okay, so another big question that I've been receiving lately is crumbly bread. People are saying they have made my loaf bread recipe, but it is crumbly. And there are a few things with this, and it kind of just all depends. You're just going to have to use process of elimination to figure it out. But first of all, this bread will, now do you know this is fresh baked goods, and certain breads are just, you are going to have a little bit of crumble. It's not falling apart. It's not an insane amount, but do you know a few little crumbs are normal. So if you're not used, we're not used to seeing that with store-bought bread, just know homemade bread is a bit different. So, so that's the thing with that. Another thing is it does depend on how you are storing your bread. If you notice that it's not crumbly until maybe 2 or 3 days after you bake it, it may just be drying out with how you're storing it. And I did do a video all about how I do store my breads. I find that the longest way, what keeps it fresher and softer longer, is actually storing them in plastic bread bags, or big, like 2-gallon size plastic Ziploc bag. That's what I found to make them last longer and maintain to be softer. They're not drying out. You do have linen bread bags as well, but I do find that starts to dry out the bread more, thus making it a bit more crumbly. So that's one thing, is pay attention to how you're storing your bread. Third thing, make sure you're using a bread knife. If you were using a serrated knife, it is definitely going to crumble more than an actual bread knife. Bread knives, I don't know the technology behind it, but they're clearly designed to slice through bread a lot neater than a serrated knife. So that's with that. And the last thing is, I have found that if you are using my recipe, and this is going to answer a question that I saw about if you want smaller loaves. As do you know, my recipe makes large, very large 2-pound plus loaves, depending on how much flour you put in. And I have found that if I do a smaller 1-pound loaf, that I definitely do not get really any crumbles unless it's dried out. I think because it just kind of stays together better with a smaller loaf. So if the 2-pound loaves are too big for you, no problem, cut it in half. My recipe can easily be cut in half, doubled, tripled. And for those who do not know, I actually have a little cheat sheet available for free. It's just signing up for my newsletter. It's the just a little cheat sheet that actually has the ingredients for 1 loaf, 2 loaf, and 3 loaves. But just remember that each of these are 2-pound loaves. So what I would recommend is, if, say, you're wanting 2 1-pound loaves, you follow the 1 loaf recipe. And then when you actually have your dough formed, just cut it in half to make sure that they're roughly about 1 pound each. So again, you can easily just cut these recipes in half, no problem. And I've done that before myself, never had any problem. So again, you can go to my website, grainsandgrit.com. There's under freebies, and you'll see the ingredient cheat sheet, I believe is what it's called, if you haven't grabbed that yet. It also has ingredients for like my muffins, cornbread, pie crust, my most used breads that I make, basically. All right. So that is with the crumbly bread question. The third question, let me look up here to see if okay. Here's a question. I want to buy some dent corn. Will it be okay in the bucket it comes in? I would, first of all, see who you're ordering it from, because if it comes in a bucket, it's possible that they have already treated it like with CO2. It's not a chemical, it's just carbon dioxide to kill off any bugs. Otherwise, corn and rice are the only grains that I've had issues with little bugs hatching. So if they do not treat them, you can just stick an oxygen absorber in it. Done. Like easy peasy. Okay. So let's see here. Oh, one thing I did want to add, I've been seeing with the crumbly bread, do you know that it does vary based on the wheat that you are using? So do experiment with wheat. If you're using a mixture of hard red and hard white, maybe try all hard red. See if you still have the same issues. Things like that. And if you have recently changed the company or the farmer you have purchased wheat from, I have noticed that sometimes there's just a little bit of variation based on where it grows. Just like with any crop, it varies just a little bit wherever it's grown. So I have found that whenever I've switched, like I'm using a different farmer or company for, like, say, hard red, I have noticed that sometimes I need to just alter it just a little bit. Maybe it now needs more flour, things like that. Okay, so last one, and this is one that I received several questions about, and this was on my last video. It was for cheese grits, and people were asking me, thinking that aren't grits always nixtamalized? And just know that this is a big research project that I have been working on. It is a confusing topic about grits. Are they nixtamalized or not? Because we hear hominy grits, and that generally means nixtamalized. But from my research, that is actually typically not what is done. Even though they're called hominy grits, they have not been nixtamalized. But yeah, it's a huge research project I'm still working on. And whenever I've got all the information, I will be doing a video about that. Excuse me. So just, I'm working on it, y'all. I'm working on it, but it is a confusing topic if you do your own research. Okay, so some more questions. We have Tina Roberts. Can I substitute butter in the pie shell recipe? Yes. Yes, I have used butter, my palm shortening, lard. Even I've even used coconut oil, although that wasn't my favorite one. But you can do that too. But yeah, you can easily switch out the fats. What is that big word you just said about grits? Okay, that was nixtamalization. And yes, it is a big word. Have fun spelling it. I did a video all about nixtamalizing corn, and the reason for doing that, how to do that. That's soaking the corn in a calcium lime solution to really unlock the nutrients. So I do have a video all about corn nixtamalization, the whys, the hows, and I highly recommend that video if you haven't already watched it. Okay, so let me see here. How much dough do you put in a Pullman pan? I've yet to do a video about my large Pullman pan. I'm still working on little tweaks with it, but generally speaking, I do use my typical bread. Yeah. Okay. I really apologize that y'all. I completely lost everything. I don't know what happened. Yeah, but I think I'm good. Okay. So we're going to continue with the question. Okay. So if you recently asked a question, I completely lost all of my comments with what I'm saying. Okay. Whoa, it just had a ton. Okay. I'm back. I'm sorry about that, guys. I don't know what happened. It just completely cut out. Okay. So I have a question from Cynthia. Does anyone know how long fresh ground grains last? Can I grind grain and later use them? Okay. Yes, technically you can mill your wheat and use it for later, but do know that just in the first 24 hours, oxidization has occurred and you're already losing nutrients. By day 3, 96% of nutrients have been lost. So I do not recommend grinding your grains way in advance. I always recommend ideally grind them right when you need to use them. Now I do know, now even for me, I sometimes grind them the night before because, say, if I'm making muffins or something like that for breakfast, I don't necessarily want my mill to be going early in the morning, or I may have, I may just need to save some time. So what I do for those is I either put it in my freezer or my fridge just to kind of slow down that I cannot say it, oxidizing process a little bit more. Excuse me. Okay. So that's the question for that. So again, in 3 days, just 3 days of grinding, most of like 96% of the nutrients have completely disappeared. All right. So let me check for any other. Okay. Okay. So we have another one. Why Sterling? What are some good but not too pricey mixers for most bread, cookies, etc.? I saw KitchenAid Artisan for a great deal and didn't know if this would work for milled wheat recipes. Okay. And I really need to do a video about the mixers. I would not recommend a KitchenAid for using for making bread with freshly milled grains. Now, if you already have one, use it. No need to rush out and buy a better one. So definitely use it. But those motors are not designed to handle the very heavy dough. When using freshly milled wheat, it's just a heavier dough, and eventually it will wear down and you're going to burn out the motor. So I recommend definitely investing in the Bosch universal mixer. That's the one that I have, Miss Betsy Bosch, and I love her. She's a workhorse. And she is a bit cheaper than the Ankarskum. I can never pronounce that one right. So that's the really, really nice one. That's like the Cadillac of the mixers. But either one of those are really good. And feel free to look on eBay or, Facebook Marketplace. Maybe you can find one. Also, a bit cheaper one is the Nutrimil Artiste mixer, which has just as powerful of a motor as the Bosch universal mixer, but it's smaller, it's more compact. So it's still great. Ultimately, you're looking for a good motor when using it for this type of dough. So that one is another one, the Nutrimil Artiste. So that one I think is only like $150 or $200, I think. So, it is more affordable and it's just not as big, but the motor is still very powerful. All right. So let's see here. Oh, hi, Kunyai. Glad you're listening. All right. So let me see. Okay. So I have Linda. We are farmers in the Midwest. We grow soft red wheat. I assume it works the same as soft white. Do you know? Yes. From my research, I found that soft red, yes, acts very similar to soft white, just being a different variation. You're just going to have a slightly different taste. All right. So let's see. Okay, to anyone who knows quick bread that uses baking soda like Irish bread, better to use gluten or gluten-free flour. I'm not an advocate of gluten-free flours unless you have to, or, you're making cornbread, which corn is naturally gluten-free. So I wouldn't know. I think it would just, I know Irish bread, I typically use like a hard white, I think, or a soft white. So not I just use regular wheat, not a gluten-free at all. Um, okay, so let me see here. Any other ones? Well, I know we're at 42 minutes now, so we may need to wrap this up. Okay, so oh, okay. Yeah, last one. Again, I really about a mixer. How does the Bosch compare to the KitchenAid Pro? And the biggest difference is the motor. So the Bosch Universal Mixer has just a powerful motor than any of the KitchenAids that I've seen, even the KitchenAid Pro. And I think the dough hook on the Bosch and the Ankarskum mixer are just more superior dough hooks than any of the KitchenAids that I've seen. They just knead the bread so well. Okay. So I think that's it. I know we have so many questions. Again, I will try to start doing these lives once a month again. Took a break there because we were moving, but we're settled. But I really appreciate all of you being here. I really hope this live was helpful, and thank you for being patient with the technical issues that we have had. Hopefully we can iron those out by the next one. All right. So thank you so much, everyone. And as always, I will see you in the next video.